Hey, Gail, thank you for coming in today. You are just doing outstanding work. Really one of the first out there with the ability to detect problems with images and so on. Really the best of the marketplace, the first one out there. And now you're really heavily into generative AI and really the combination of generative combining with those elements of kind of free-form speech with free-form images, and then even the integration. You're working into the integration of all of this and providing this as a platform, as a service, and also to consumers. So you're really hitting all aspects of this, but we'll get into that more detail. You're definitely the best in the marketplace, so it's really interesting what you're doing. Gail, my audience primarily consists of CEOs, investors, founders, and computer scientists and experts. But really the number one audience are CEOs and investors. So they're always interested when I interview people like yourself who are doing just outstanding work. What were those inflection points that made you who you are today? Maybe when it was when you were 3 or 5, it could have been when you were in your early days in school and university, or some of the work that you did as in the founding of this startup, or even before. 2 or 3 things that really made a difference in your life.
Wow, yeah, that's a big question. So first, great to be here. Always great to speak with you, and thanks for the warm words. So I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm the CEO of DID. My co-founders are Sela Blondheim and Eliran Kuta. Inflection points. So, as you know, in Israel, we all have a mandatory army service. So I'd say the 3 of us served in the intelligence corps of the IDF. And so one important thing is was there, just learning to work as a team and to be a part of a team where you trust them and you work together and you achieve great things which look very hard and long tasks together. So this is one. And I'd say 2 was I met Sela, one of the co-founders at the Army Service. I met Eliran at the last startup I worked at, which was Yevo, which pivoted to Life on Air, which pivoted to Meerkat, which pivoted to House Party. It was a video platform, live streaming app, which later became a video call app, which we were among the first. Now the big tech companies are doing these technologies. So I think this was also an inflection point where I learned first how to pivot and move according to the market, and second about media and about videos and about conversations. And I think this is something that is super important and very relevant to what we are doing now. Okay, at DID, we've also pivoted. We can talk about that. We started by protecting against face recognition. DID is a short for de-identification. We've realized about this problem way before other people, so since 2014. We are in the generative AI space since 2014. Myself and my co-founders, at least. And so we've started with that. We've pivoted. We've realized that there is going to be a much bigger disruption, something huge. The disruption is going to be around how media is going to be created. And the answer is, today we call it generative AI. So we've realized it very early, about 2019. We've pivoted at the end of 2020. And now what we do is we create digital people. Which I'll talk about soon. So we believe at DID the next type of media is going to be conversations, And large language models are super, super important, and we are complementary to that. We bring a face to the large language models. You input text in the photo, and we make the photo speak the text. So I think they're learning about changes, fast changes, strategic changes, and about video and conversations was an important point. And the last thing I'd say, Y Combinator. Y Combinator, it was also an important thing. So the idea, immediately after we started, we went to Y Combinator, the accelerator, and I think we learned so much. It makes you right away, you are lined up with many other startups, which are all very, very good and strong people. And you have to really move fast and set yourself goals which are higher than the other companies. We are very competitive. And then I think it sets the beginning, like what's, the speed that you start from there in the beginning, it will go down. So you set the speed to be the highest possible. So we did that. And I think that was also an inflection point.
That's really fascinating, these inflection points where you were in the Israeli Defense Force and intelligence, and you learned about teamwork and working together and trust, and working with these trusted relationships as mandatory service, actually, in Israel, as you mentioned. So it's really a crucible for creating really outstanding startups. And in fact, when I did an interview with Yuri Levine recently and did an article on him, same thing, that was a crucible for all of the multiple unicorns that he's been involved with, either from an investment standpoint or founding. And I think he's got like 40, 50 companies now that he's involved with. So I can see that common element. And then, of course, you worked in startups and you got into this area of being able to identify and work with video and using AI and merging with that very early on the generative AI side, which has really, really taken off now, right? It's become a really hot area for investment, and maybe triple the investment going in the last few months because of what's happened, and you being at the forefront. You're way ahead of anybody else, which means you have much more experience in this area. And then you talk about Y Combinator, because Y Combinator is quite famous for, being like a venture studio, enabling and incubating startups and people getting into this mindset and being agile. So you're very agile. You're very much looking and tracking at market trends, making sure you're in front of it, and that you have really great problems that you're solving with world-class solutions. So again, I can see all of those inflection points weaving into what you're doing today. So can you talk about now on the generative AI side, because it's just so hot, right? You're embracing fusion models within that, of course, the transformer models. You have the ability to integrate that with live media. Can you talk about what that looks like today, and then what you see you'll be doing later on this year, and what that will look like, and what you hope to achieve maybe in 2 to 3 years? So first of all, what are you doing now? And I know, and can you give me some metrics to prove that this is really hot?
Yes. So I'll take a step back, because I mentioned in the beginning that we are doing generative AI since 2014. The company is alive since 2017. So we've started with protecting against face recognition. So it was before this space, generative AI, even had its name, right? It was called many different names, like GANs, generative adversarial networks, and things like that. So we are in this space really since the beginning. And we have realized that this is happening, exactly what we are seeing now. We've realized it in 2019. We've pivoted, and in the beginning we thought that it will be more in the entertainment space, and pretty fast we've realized that it's the best use cases, especially for us, to focus on our enterprise use cases. So what we are doing now is digital people. You input text and a photo of a person, and you get a video of the person speaking the text at any language you want. And our product is award-winning product. We recently won Product of the Day, Product of the Week, and Product of the Month at Product Hunt. And our DNA is mainly B2B. We sell to large enterprises and Fortune 100 companies and other large enterprises. And they are using it mainly for the following departments: for training, for marketing, and for customer experience. And for training and marketing, they typically use it to create more engaging content at a fraction of the cost. So we save them a lot of money instead of filming these lessons or these marketing videos. And you get a digital person that speaks to you. In customer experience, it's a two-way conversation. So you actually speak with the avatar. Now I'll talk a little bit about, to your question, what do we do today and where is it heading? So we have two types of presenters, digital humans. One is a premium presenter and one a standard presenter. Premium presenter, you need to film the person for 5 minutes. We train on this footage for several hours, and then you have a high quality digital person that you can use, and it moves the hands, etc. The standard presenter, you need only a single image. This is very important because this enables us to be a key important building block in the generative AI space, because you can use a photo that you generated using AI. You can take DALL-E 2, create a photo, and then we make the photo speak any text or the text that GPT just created. And we have what we believe they did the highest quality in the world of animation of a single image. So this is what we do today. And we recently connected to our studio. So there are 3 ways to use our solutions. We have plugins, plugin to PowerPoint, to Canva, and soon to other softwares. We have an API, so developers can build applications around our technology. We are a platform. Our solution is very important. It's one of the main building blocks. If you look at generative AI, the main building blocks is the large language models, is the text generators. But then you have the photo generators. We make the characters in the photos speak the text. So it's taking the text, converting to a video. It's a text to video solution. It's putting a face to Bard, to GPT. So it's complementary to these important things. So we see ourselves as a platform, and numbers. They are about, we just recently opened the API without any marketing or anything. It's just about 10 days or 2 weeks ago, and there are already 100,000 unique developers in our API, looking at the API, and soon, besides this article, soon we are going to announce the world about it. So we have a reason to believe that thousands of applications are going to appear soon using our solution. So this is one API. 2 is the plugins, and 3, we have our self-serve studio, where enterprises are using, but also creators and individuals. In the self-serve studio, we've integrated recently GPT and Stable Diffusion. So you have now all the things in one place, the two main building blocks and our unique text to video solution. So you can either take a photo of yourself or a photo of you 10 years ago, or a character, cartoon, or someone that is not with us anymore, whoever you want. There are many guardrails around it to protect for ethical use, and we can talk about that later. But you can also generate a character. You can input your own text, or you can generate text using GPT. And then you can choose any language you want, any accent, different types of intonations. You can also input voice, and we can also clone your voice using third parties. So this is the self-serve studio, which now has GPT and stable diffusion. So these are the three ways to use our technology. Now, our go-to-market, our growth strategy is product-led growth. It's through creators and developers. So besides enterprise clients, the self-serve studio, the API is open to developers now, and the self-serve studio is open to anyone since September. And in December, we have connected these two solutions, and it's going viral. So, and the idea that all these creators, besides just giving these tools, democratizing these solutions and seeing these amazing things that people are building all over the world, this is how we get more attention by enterprise clients. But it's going viral, and you can see in social media these videos of characters speaking, endless amounts of them. And there is a new user about every 5 seconds, and it's growing exponentially. It's a very exciting times and very good reviews. Where it's heading, so the evolution of this digital person is another important thing. Our solution works at 60 FPS. That's twice faster than real time. It's a very important competitive advantage that we have, besides having the top quality, that you can converse with the avatars, with the large language models. So this is where the technology is heading, where you can converse with these people, and eventually, adding emotions to the digital person, but also digital person understanding your emotion and adjusting, and later on full body and 3D and etc.
I see that, that's fascinating. So I can see this integration, as you mentioned, stable diffusion, where you can type in text and you can get any kind of image, very photorealistic or even surreal in some aspects. And just by prompting, you can generate any kind of image you want, and that's really fascinating. And then, as you mentioned, GPT technology, which can be quite freeform in its ability to conceive and write about things. You prompt it and it writes and so on. And now you've integrated that where you can animate people, or you can animate sort of avatars, which are sort of part people, part avatar, or anywhere in between. And then you're to this environment where you can have an interaction occurring, where maybe you can talk to an avatar or a human that's artificially generated, and it responds to you from this AI, that's generative AI that's behind it. It's an amazing piece, and I know you have all of the pieces in place to do the workflow to connect the pieces together, because you can do the generation of photorealistic images and avatars. You can do the talking and the animation of people or avatars, getting them to talk, and then because you got this engine behind it that could be free form from a narrative standpoint or communication standpoint, it's just a matter of connecting those pieces to any sort of solution that you want. You have all the pieces in place to do that. You've been doing it for so long, so it'd be just a natural for you. So in my mind, I can see you being like, there's this really famous movie called Her, which came out quite some time ago, and this gentleman's talking to this this sort of digital equivalent of a human, and he's thinking he's just talking to one person, but that or one digital AI, but that AI is actually talking to, like, tens of thousands of people at the same time. Because it's in the cloud, you can do the same, right? You can give a personalized experience, a personalized kind of interaction, but it could be scaling to millions at the same time. And really the ramification of her, you are creating her, or you can, let's put it that way, right? Besides the tools, the plugins that you have, the studio that you have, the enterprise solutions that you have, really you're addressing all the different parts of the marketplace. And as you're mentioning, it's exponentially growing because you can seamlessly, high quality, integrate all of these pieces. So quite a unique positioning. And I guess it reflects your computing science background as well. You graduated a computing science degree from Tel Aviv University, which is quite a famous university, and you're continuing this leadership and so on. Do you then believe that, there's controversy too? So let's talk about some of the controversy, right? Microsoft came out and they integrated Bing with ChatGPT, and I think it's a great move. But you see people trying to test the limits of it, right? Where they're trying to break it, or they're trying to get it to go outside the boundaries and things like that. And maybe in my mind, maybe you have a choice. You as a consumer can say, you know what, I want it to be free form, so I could talk to it for hours on end. And yeah, it goes out of the boundaries, but you want that sort of free form narrative. And then you can make a choice. The consumer can make a choice that, no, I want it really kind of within guardrails and so on, and maybe give the consumer choice. I think it's really great that Microsoft came out and said, you know what, we're going to integrate this in all our products because the capabilities are endless. But you do more because you're addressing all the pieces. It's high quality. You've integrated it. I like your thoughts about what Google is doing and Microsoft is doing, and then how you're different, and then some of the guardrails are putting on as well, because that's a concern to some people, not all people, but it's a concern to some people.
Yeah. So no, at first, it's a fascinating time, so exciting, and I believe what we are seeing now is if you know the Gartner hype cycle. So they mentioned that generative AI is at the maximum point. Soon there's going to be the valley of despair, and they mentioned it's going to be very short this time. I think now we are experiencing a little bit the valley of despair. People understand the problems of it, and how it's not as perfect as we thought a few weeks or months ago, but it's going to be very quick, and it's going to act different than the Gartner hype cycle because it's bringing value, so much value, and soon there's going to be the GPT-4, and there's going to be other competitors, and there's going to be another peak. At the idea, so first, it's very good that there are these big giants that are solving these problems ahead. I'll start first with the way we see it, and I look at it as in two different aspects. First, the idea as a platform, and then the idea as a B2B player. And I believe that, again, these two large language models are super, super valuable and powerful, and conversations are going to be the next type of media. What exactly does it mean? We will figure out. The world, no one knows. And this is where I want the idea we see the founders and the management and the company here, we really believe we are going to play a very important part. And these are not just conversations with large language models, or between people, or between avatars, or avatar and it's it's with digital characters. It's not just with large language models. You have to put a face to that. And you mentioned the Hair, the movie. So first, we don't want to get into this space, but we do have partners which are experts in these spaces. I don't know if you remember, we did the big product with the MyHeritage, where Deep Nostalgia, which went viral, and we have quite a few other partners in the genealogy space and the history. So there are quite a few partners that are very interested in this space, and so it can be from something like that to the next TikTok, to educational apps where you converse with people and learn from them, to really endless amounts of opportunity, to podcasts with characters, or children books, or a child speaking with a family doctor at his house, or a psychologist, and more and more and more. And we are going to open our API is open, and with the fastest solution ever that exists in the highest quality, you can create these characters and converse with them, and we are giving the world to choose, to decide what is going to be built, and we believe that we are going to see amazing things. So this is one. That's the future, conversations with characters, and we are the platform and enabling people to just build whatever they want. Two is the opportunities for enterprises. And here we have a strong vision. Besides really saving cost and increasing engagement for training and marketing departments, higher completion rates in L&D, and the higher conversions in marketing, and at a fraction of the cost. Besides that, we have a much bigger vision, which is to disrupt the way humans interface with anything digital. So that's for customer experience. Again, having some kind of a chatbot like GPT with large language model, but that is trained to the specific domain of the enterprise with the human part as a digital human. And some of our most advanced and innovative partners and clients are already doing these things. And in order to create a better experience for the customers, to create a better connection between the brand and the customer, and to save costs and enable scale of customer support. So imagine, instead of you are seeing anything digital, any screen. It can be now the television. You want to move to another channel, to HDMI, to Netflix, and you don't know how to do that. Instead of calling your friend or child or support, which usually televisions don't have, you just speak to the screen, to a person. Or now you are moving from Mac to Dell. You're just speaking with a computer. So instead of a GUI, graphical user interface, we want to introduce to the world human user interface. You will just speak with a person. This is our vision for this space.
I mean, that'd be quite remarkable. It'd be definitely be an outstanding innovation in any kind of support mechanism that's out there, right? Because people are constantly tinkering with devices, and they're going on the line and they're trying to find PDFs which can walk them through, or YouTube videos, and then it's so awkward. Whereas if you had an online avatar guide, and it could be in human form, that has this ability to free form react to your requests, and then guide you in a precise way, and even maybe make changes for you in a precise way. That
Exactly.
amazing to have, and that's part of your plan. That's part of your roadmap. So, and you have clients who are embracing your technologies, your APIs, and so on to do this. So that's something that will make a much easier landscape. I know that when I work with technology, and I think I think, wow, there's a lot of older people who aren't used to working with technology. I mean, I have a computing science background, right? I mean, or an engineering background. So, and I started as a programmer, but I think there's a lot of people who don't have those kind of backgrounds. And even for me, it's awkward when I want to set up new devices. To have that seamless transition will be amazing and transformational globally. So it's good to hear that's part of your strategy. But what will happen then is it'll open up other frontiers, right? You do that, then other things will open up. If you were to look, let's say, at 2025, which is only a couple of years from now, what would the world be looking like at that time in your mind? Because you see so much, right?
Yeah. So it's really hard to really hard to estimate how it's going to look like. I believe like the first there is a huge race between the tech giants. They all understand now that this is something super strong. Just I think CB Insights recently made a poll with its analysts of how big do they believe that generative AI is going to be, and the answers were as big as the iPhone or the internet.
Right.
Well, I believe it's going to be much bigger because these things are also writing code. So in 2025, I think everyone are going to use these tools, and we're going to see it's going to be like it's going to be bigger than the iPhone, but it's going to be like the time where everyone were building apps. So there are going to be tons of companies, tons of applications, and everything is going to be so much more effective. And the enterprises will understand how to use these tools to be more effective. And whoever will not, both the creators, the people who work at different roles in the enterprises and the enterprise themselves, will just be replaced by people who do know how to use these tools. Yeah, and I think for our role in this evolution is really to make it much more human, much more simple to interact with this entity, with large language models. We are used since because of evolution, we are used to communicate with we are used to feel better, to understand the situation, and to feel more comfortable, to learn better complex things when there is a face. And I think digital people are going to take a very important role in the entrance of AI into our world. It's less metaverse. Metaverse is not, it will be, I think, more far ahead. It's generative AI in the real world. Yeah, so I think in 2025, end of 2025, everything will be more effective. Enterprises will understand how to use these tools. They currently don't know how to adjust large language models to their specific needs domain. and everyone will become creators.
I inserted some AI in a development I did for the first application of microcomputers and networks and so on back in 1985 in the pharmaceutical division of Atomic Energy of Canada. And at that time, we had close to like 80% market share, right? So radiopharm. And it was the first application, and I built the entire system, right? But AI was always this, the manifestations of AI from 1985 or in the 80s till now has always been this kind of esoteric. How do we really use it? And what OpenAI, working with Microsoft and some aspects of Microsoft, has put so much investment into them. When they released ChatGPT, it just made it so accessible where people could get it. Like a 5-year-old could get it. A 10-year-old could actually try something and get it. And that's never really happened to this extent before. It's integrated into your phone, but you don't really see it. But where you could actually see it happening and doing it in a seamless way, and then anybody could experiment. So you see them going from 0 to 1 million users in the first few days, and now it's over 100 million active users, and really this thing could scale to billions, right? If you have some access to the internet, or even for that matter, to a feature phone, you'll have this, or a smartphone, you'll have this ability to interact. So it's made it really inclusive. Anybody can feel the impact. And you're embedded in that, right? You're embedded in it so that people who are saying, how can I corral this thing to make it useful for my business or my personal use? You've corralled it and given tools so that people can instantly use it in a way that meaningful to add value, whoever they are, and you're continue to lead that way. And what's happening is that I can see then, as you mentioned, where your CB Insights, or you're quoting some of the aspects of CB Insights where, it's being bigger than the internet or bigger than the phone. It'll be bigger because it'll be so much accessibility, right? To anybody, anywhere, anytime. And you're at the heart of that because you have all these tools that make it accessible to anybody. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're an enterprise, you want to use it, or whether you're a creator, or a small or medium-sized company. It doesn't matter what size you are, you can use what you're doing, or individuals, right? So that makes for an amazing time. And I can see when you're looking at predicting, it's going to be difficult because you're at the front of this huge wave that's just rolling over the entire planet. And it'll be interesting to see as you help shape this movement going forward.
Yes, so it's going to be really interesting. We are already amazed by things we see, because it's people from all over the world are using technology, from the US to Thailand to Morocco and Japan and Korea and China, using the technology, and for different things. Definitely the ChatGPT and a face is missing there. This is going to change, and we are enabling developers to build things on it, creators using the self-serve studio where we integrated GPT, and we are now helping the early adopters, more innovative large enterprises, to take these large language models and to create a multi-model which combines. We are training for them these large language models to be specific domain for their tasks, for their use case, and also combining it with traditional NLP, like question and answer, Google Dialogflow type, to make exactly the kind of AI assistant that they want, which is integrated together with our digital people. So it's really, really exciting times.
Yeah, and I guess about a year ago, Patty Mays had a series of workshops, and your VP from DID was invited to present. And what she wanted to do was do a workshop showing for a day who are the leading researchers who are doing practical solutions in this area. And so she had people from all over the world, and DID was invited to that. So I attended for the whole day, and in fact did an interview afterwards with Patty Mays, who's the head of the fluid interfaces research group at MIT Media Labs. In fact, was prior chair of their executive committee, and I thought the presentation at the time of DID was quite outstanding. But you've done so much more in less than a year. And are you still working or collaborating with Patty Mays and her group at all? Because they're working on all of this interfacing with humans and what that means, even looking at human reactions and being able to sort of give an in-presence virtual capability, where it used to be that if you were on a digital medium with some kind of avatar or something like that, you missed a lot of the visual cues. But their research is indicating, and working with others, you don't have to miss any of that. In fact, you can even get more detail, right? Because of the analysis that's occurring. So, and this speaks to earlier where you were saying that, an avatar, ones that you're creating, really, if you're linking into the camera, has the ability to sense what the reactions are of the individual that they're interfacing with. Are there do they have anxiety? Are they happy? What is their emotional state? And then, that could be used in healthcare, for example, or wellness and so on. So because
Yes.
of that in-presence, face-to-face capability can even be expanded upon digitally now because of all of the sensing that's occurring. It opens up really all boundaries, right? All areas.
All areas, yes. So first, really, as experts in faces and videos for a long time, since 2014, we have learned that videos are more effective than text and audio and photos altogether. If you want to train someone, to teach someone, to sell to someone, to engage with someone, video is more effective, especially with the Gen Z, and now I learned there's a Gen Alpha.
Alpha, yeah.
So, but for everyone. And if you add a face, we also researched that if you add a face to the video, it's even more effective.
Right.
And if it's the right face for me might not be the right face for you, it's even more engaging. So first, and then you have the large language models, right? They are text. So first, change all the lengthy, boring presentations and texts into videos with faces. Now, then what you said, yes, it can take us, it can change the way we interact with each other. So you have now machines, and we can change lip syncing. You can speak in different languages. This AI, we already have these technologies, can change its emotions, but it also, using face recognition and audio recognition, it can analyze your emotions and adapt and interact with you. And then you have endless amount of applications for elderlies and young people, and a lot in healthcare and many other things. We didn't touch on the ethical side, which is very important for me, for my co-founders, and for the whole DID team. It's really part of our DNA, and it's a kind of a mission we took on ourselves. I want maybe to talk about it for a few minutes. So before the idea started, back these years, before even 2014, around this time, so we were thinking about opening a business and doing something important for the world. So these two things, a strong business, but in doing good. And there were like several ideas. It was protecting against face recognition was one. Mapping radiation was one, helping people with fast sightness when the iPhone started. And eventually we've decided to protect against face recognition. And when we understood between 2019 to 2021, we understood this disruption is happening in the media space, generative AI, it was obvious that this is going to be like a Wild West, you know, that it's a very sensitive environment where there can be non-ethical uses of the technology. And we have decided when we thought if to enter to this space or not, and we realized that if we don't, that the future, if we enter or don't enter, can be different. We can affect it. So we took on us, and we also realized we can lead in terms of business. We can lead this disruption in the video space, specifically in the digital human space, which is huge. It's going to be huge. And we took on ourselves this mission, and this mission was to make sure that with us, this space is going to be much better, and to, as much as possible for a startup, to take the whole landscape to the right direction. And the right direction is doing good using AI, educating the market, helping pushing laws and regulators towards moving faster, and educating customers, consumers, and investors on what's good and what's bad. And we have done it, and I'm very proud of what we have done. So besides making sure that our surroundings, our users, our clients are using the technology for good and cannot use it for bad because of guardrails that we've put, and our rules and our contracts and all of that, and the organizations that we are part of, and we are researching with other organizations regarding tools to detect such things and put invisible watermarks, etc. The thing that I'm most important of is our campaigns for social impact. Also, we've brought the top experts in the world in ethics and privacy. So the former chief privacy officer of Microsoft is on our advisory board, Richard Pussell, and the former head of privacy of Amazon Prime, Deborah Farber, and the developer of the privacy by design concept, Dr. Anka Vukian. They are all on the advisory board, and they are helping us a lot. But again, what I'm most proud of is our social impact campaign, which is led by Shiran Melamdowski-Somer. So we do a lot of these campaigns, and the goal was to do a lot of pro bono social impact important campaigns, and then to show the world, and hopefully to gather the creators and developers and companies after us to do good things with AI. So we did quite a few things. We did a campaign for the awareness of domestic violence against women. We started in Israel, and we basically worked with families of women that were murdered by their husbands, and we brought them to life. You can search it online, Listen to My Voice. Very, very powerful campaign, which was eventually also in the UN and NATO and different parliaments around the world, like Brazil, etc. And it literally saved lives of women. We are really proud of that. We did one, which is soon going to be released with the collaboration with Microsoft, a chatbot. I'm not sure I can share more details because it's going to be announced soon, which is also to help women in dangerous environments. We did one in the UK to help find missing children, and they want to stop women trafficking, and more and more. And what's very exciting, and that I think is like a proof that we succeeded, and that now companies and creators are going after us and doing these things. So because by ourselves, a small startup of 45 people, we can't have so much power to do a big change like OpenAI, etc. But now many people are doing this. So like one example I really liked is a reporter that did a film where she shared testimonials, not like the stories of children in Ukraine that can't show their face because of privacy reasons, and she used many AI tools and hours, and it was super powerful, and other stories. So this is something that we are proud of and makes us wake up with a smile every day. And I think is very important in this space to know how to navigate and what to do and what not.
Again, Gil, just simply remarkable, all of the ethical areas that you're addressing, and you're a model that others can follow, but also you give examples of actually the use of or the execution on these ethical frameworks or having positive impacts, and addressing how you can use it for tech for good, AI for good, right? And it's good that you're founded on these principles. Your original founding of your company was based on these principles of doing it for good. So again, amazing sort of spectrum and ecosystem that you built, all of which is to further the proliferation in a good way, how technology can be used for positive impact and positive social impact as well. We're down to our last question because we're down to our last few minutes. And, what would be your recommendations to the audience? And there's no limit. There's no, you can free form anywhere you want to take this. So
My advice to the audience. So my advice is our world is changing. I hear many people. I recently lectured in Shankar. It's designers kind of college, and there was you could see that people are afraid of the technology. So my advice to people is just to try the technology, not to be afraid of it, and get into things. It's super simple. There are tutorials, YouTube videos everywhere. It's made really simple for everyone to use. Most of the tools, some more, some less. But start with the obvious ones. Start using ChatGPT and start creating photos using Midjourney and Stable Diffusion and DALL-E, and then use other tools and play with create music and presentations, etc. Because it's going to be harder later when things get more complex and everyone knows how to use these things. And it's like people who didn't know how to do a search in Google like 10 years ago, and you had this link you would send to them of they had a question, they have a question, and you send them a link of how you search in Google. So these things are now mandatory to know. Very important. That's my advice. Just go play with these tools and understand what's all the noise about.
Yeah, and all the capabilities, and then make sure you edit as well the output so that so that it's appropriate for the different audiences that you're going to share it with or use it with. So those are good recommendations because it's just so accessible, right? And it's not going to decrease; it'll just increase.
Yes.
Gil, amazing time. You've done some just amazing work with your co-founders, definitely leading for many years, like you mentioned, even pre 2014, and then especially after from 2014 onwards. And congratulations on the amazing success and continuing impact you're having globally with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. So again, thank you for coming in and sharing so much with our audience.
Thank you, Stefan. Thanks for having me. Great talking to you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.